There we go. Okay, so we are recording, as I just mentioned. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Spring Day WIT event. I can't believe we never got around to a date in August. As I mentioned earlier, Ilana Baragwanath has helped me organize today's event. And between everybody's schedule, August just wasn't playable at all for anybody. So our Women's Day event is on the 1st of September. And so that's where we are. Can you believe it? We're already into the burrs, which means it's downhill till Christmas. Okay. So firstly, a very big welcome to all of you today. It's fantastic to have so many people joining us. Really, really exciting. And as I explained, our topic today is around gender diversity and what different organizations are doing and have done and have achieved to really make a difference in this space. So there's startling figures that we're all very aware of. I think currently we've just reached 25% of women in leadership positions in the technology industry, which, if you think about it, is only 1/4 of all leadership positions are filled by women, and yet women are more than 50% of the population. The stats always say we like 50.28 or something. And it's very easy to kind of get frustrated and get a little bit downhearted about this. And our approach has been to go the other way and go, well, look at the progress we have made. Look what is being done. And the reason why we wanted to share this today, and Ilana, who's on the call there, it was Ilana's idea, was let's share what we are doing and what is working in different organizations so that we can emulate this. Because this is a goal that we all need to work together on. This is not something that just the big organizations are responsible. We can't just expect Microsoft and Amazon and Google to be the pioneers in gender diversity. This is at every organizational size and focus. And I think that's what's actually really exciting about gender diversity, is that there is so much opportunity to keep improving. And so we've got a great lineup. We've got 4 ladies who are going to be joining us today. And I think what they have to share is going to be really, really exciting. Welcome to all the ladies that have just jumped onto the call. Fantastic to see all of you and to have so many of you joining us today on our Spring Day. I hope that you're all wearing bright spring colors and feeling a little bit glam, yeah. Excited for the warm weather and just how the rest of the year goes, getting warmer and warmer and heading towards December. Before we move on to speakers, for those of you that are joining for the first time or perhaps haven't been a part of the WIT network for a while, just a quick highlight. Women in Tech, there are loads of women in technology organizations, and ours used to be part of the International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners, and they seeded about 4 years ago and became an independent organization. And they are a global organization. And the whole purpose of it is, one, to get more women into technology industries and companies, and then within those industries to support them and provide education and networking opportunities. So it's a global network, and I highly recommend, you can see the website address at the bottom left there, to sign up with them. I think it's $97 a year, and you become a global member, and there's loads of interesting content and webinars that you can attend. And obviously we want to drive more people joining the South Africa chapter. There you can join us on LinkedIn or Facebook. There's the details there. And as I said, our purpose is threefold. We want to focus on your own self-development, so just learning and growing through networking and through information sharing. enabling the next generation of girls to get into this industry and empower them to really succeed and just get more young women interested in technology. And as I explained to everybody here, as many of you know, I'm not even a technology person, I'm an HR. And here I am, a huge advocate for this industry because we utilize technology in every area, finance, HR, marketing, as well as the hardcore technical developer, testing, business analysis, consulting, etc. So it's really just to get more young women into this industry. It's a sustainable career and there's loads and loads of opportunities. And the last area that we focus on in terms of knowledge sharing is around our leadership development and how do we get more women into positions of leadership, keep them there so their experience is safe and consistent and sustainable, and more importantly that it's a pathway, it's a runway for the next generation to come up as well. Okay, so that is who WIT is, and what you can do today is invite more people to join us on LinkedIn, join us on Facebook, and put your ideas forward, any topics you want to discuss. We're always looking for speakers, and now that we're virtual, hope probably until the end of this year we'll be virtual, and hopefully in January we will have our first in-person event in what will almost be 2 years. But yeah, we want more people, we want more ideas, we want that just insight that you guys have. And most importantly, is just driving that diversity agenda, which is hugely important. So welcome, everybody. Fantastic to have almost 50 people on the call this afternoon. It is being recorded. We'll load it onto our YouTube channel. I see Karika's just shared that link. Yep, there we go. So you can follow us, the YouTube channel. All of our recordings are there. And without further ado, Ilana, I'm gonna, perhaps you can, I've got your bio for Michelle, but perhaps you can introduce her.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So great to be with you today. Yeah, you know, when discussing this event with Lauren as well, we really thought about, like she mentioned, is how do we really connect with each other and understand what each other's doing, use this as kind of a thought leadership or roundtable, just to kind of share best practices, see potentially, you know, are there different things that we could potentially partner with as well to help other organizations drive this agenda or do things differently. So really wanted to connect from that aspect as well and see maybe, you know, at the end of the call, maybe there's time for Q&A, just to maybe understand what other people that are not, you know, speakers today in terms of what they're doing and where we could possibly collaborate for even greater impact. So really looking forward to that discussion at the end as well. Today, we've got Michal, who's joining us from our Israeli sub. Thank you so much for joining us today. She has driven such an amazing initiative, which, you know, I'll let her speak about in terms of driving this agenda within our MIA organization. And I just really wanted to give her the opportunity to share some of the stuff that she has driven and the impact that she's made, to see if this is possibly something that we could maybe extend to us in South Africa, that she could maybe help us drive, because you know, I think it's such a great agenda. So Michal, I'll over to you to share your awesome work that you've been doing.
Thank you so much, Ilana, and thank you, team. Thank you, everyone, for joining my talk. I just want to apologize in advance. For some reason, today in my city, we're experiencing some internet issues. So if my line breaks or you can't see what I'm presenting, just let me know and I'll try to connect to some other network and see what I can do. So can everyone hear me well? Just to make sure that the sound is good.
Yes, for now it's fine, Michal.
Wonderful, good. So hello everyone, very nice to meet you. Oh, just one last question. What's the length of my talk, just to make sure that I don't go over time?
About 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah, 15 to 20 minutes, okay. So that we've got some time for Q&A.
Wonderful. Yes, I would like really to have an opportunity to take questions and to have it as an open discussion. So first of all, a little bit of introduction. My name is Michal Wosk. I'm from Israel. I work for Microsoft, Middle East and Africa, HQ. And in my role, I'm a product marketing manager focused on the Azure Cloud Platform. But the specific target audience that I'm working with is developers. So what I do within my work is that I engage with developer communities wherever they are, and I work with them to help them learn more on Azure, skill the people in the community, give them amazing content, and with that, the hope is, of course, for them to know Azure better and like it better, so that they are more tendent to use it over time. So that's where I'm within Microsoft. I have a wonderful colleague here in Microsoft South Africa, which is Lebo. I didn't see her on the call, but yes, I have this colleague here. So all kinds of the community activities with developers, very much within Lebo's scope, and I'm sure that you will be very, very happy to work together on them. So I'll quickly share my screen. I have the PowerPoint slides. Let me know if you can see it. And I'll move to presentation mode. There's a small mistake in the date. Sorry, I'm still in 2020. Not that it is a year that I want to remember, but never mind.
We can see it. Thanks, Michal.
You can see? Wonderful. So first of all, I do have to say that this is not my own initiative alone. I had two wonderful partners in it, and they are Adi Stein. She was, back when we started this project a year ago, she was a cloud advocacy program manager. Cloud advocacy is the team that is in charge of creating content and presentations and keynotes about developer topics. There is a wonderful cloud advocate stationed in South Africa. Maybe you know him. His name is Rory Preddy, a very big Java specialist. And Adi was actually in this team. Since then, she went on maternity leave and changed roles, but we're still working very hard together on Women Initiative. And with us also is Shiri Hochhauser. Shiri is a cloud solution architect in Microsoft, in Middle East and Africa as well, working mostly with startups and ISVs. And myself, I already presented. So what was the idea and what were we trying to solve? So I can remind you all, probably if you've been in Microsoft presentations before, you've seen this slide. Our mission at Microsoft is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. We started with this purpose because what we did was actually part of this mission. So I'll tell it more, I'll disconnect from the slides and tell it more as a story. So the person you see here in the picture is the guy between the girls is Mr. Judson Althoff. Judson is actually the second most senior person in Microsoft, I think, after Satya. He's in charge of all of Microsoft's commercial business, sales, marketing, etc. He was visiting Israel, and he did a roundtable with technical women that was about how it is to be a technical woman in Microsoft, and to raise issues or concerns or any other things that we wanted to share with him. So within this roundtable, everyone started talking, and everything was really kind of good. And then I had to put a bomb on the table, and I said, listen, in my role, I am promoting developer community events. So I'm sponsoring events, meetups, large conferences, hackathons, etc. I'm a woman, right? So I'm sponsoring these events as part of me being in Microsoft. And I see that in each event, there are less than 10% women attending. And I thought it was really, not only is it a bad thing, it's a bad thing for me because I'm part of, the female society in Israel, and I'm not actively doing anything to change it within what I'm sponsoring and I'm promoting. And I thought I was really frustrated about it. The day before, I was running a Kubernetes workshop in the Microsoft office, a full day, in which a developer would come in the morning knowing Kubernetes very in a low level, and ending the day, hands-on, he has the knowledge. He can go and apply Kubernetes in his projects at his company. So I was frustrated that from 50 people that attended, there were 4 women. And where were all the rest? So I was super frustrated about it. And then Judson said, you know what? You're right. Bring me a solution. And whatever you bring, I will support. And Shiri, she's here. So she was part of this discussion as well. And then we went and we spoke with Adi about it as well. And we decided on one way to solve it. So the challenge is the following. During the fiscal year that this project started, we ran many developer events, reaching thousands of developers in Israel. And we felt that by delivering such events, we are very compliant with Microsoft's mission. So we cater for developer needs. They come to the events and they gain valuable knowledge that will translate later into promotions, into career advancement, into more opportunities. However, these events, what we saw is that less than 22 participants were women. 22% of the participants were women. So we were starting to think, why is it like it? Why are women less attending such events? And one of the reasons we started reading and interviewing people, and one of the reasons we found some solid proof to it, that women are less likely to attend a conference, is the fact that when you look at the lineup and the agenda, usually you will not find a female speaker. And this has an impact because if you can't relate to the people that are speaking, you were less likely to want to come to this conference. And this was something we wanted to change. So we decided that we are actively working to change the situation so that there are more women on stage, and through that, more women could identify with the topics and with the entire way the event is built, and will be more likely to come. So this was our assumption. As I said, we did some research. Why are women not coming? Time issues, of course, women are, well, maybe I'm doing some, maybe it's not relevant for all women, but 80% you can say have challenges with time because we're working, we have sometimes other responsibilities in life that we want to make sure we address. Hospitality inclusion, many of the events were in times and places, and even the refreshments that were served were ones that do not appeal to women. And of course, the fact that there are lacking female speakers there. So, and you can see that within each industry, women are always a minority within the speakers. And in tech, it's not different. The only parts where we are more represented within the lineups and the agendas is education management, human resources, and higher education. In technology, in computer software, our situation is not great. So we decided to be intentional to change the situation. Role modeling is the part that we decided that we're going to tackle. So we want to create more role models for women speakers. And the assumption is that more women on stage will lead more women attending, later on speaking. So it will reproduce itself and become something that really makes a change. So this was the plan that we put in place. And the part that I want to discuss with you is the Female Speakers Academy. So the idea was to create a program with sessions of mentoring and presentations about public speaking for technical women in order to help them cross the chasm and become speakers. Also, one of the things that we wanted is to give within the program itself the speaking opportunity itself. So I'm doing a spoiler, but the program ended with a summit. And in the summit, the participants of the program were presenting technical content. And we had many registrations and a lot of attendees. So this is the Technical Speakers Academy. We did that. Everything that I do within my role is always in collaboration with external communities. So also for this one, it's the perfect crime. I did something that gives me, makes me feel that I'm helping D&I and I'm helping to improve the environment that I'm working in. But also it's in line with my business goals and with my what I'm measured on in Microsoft. So of course, we reached out to a community. The community is called Ba'ot. Ba'ot in Hebrew is coming. So there's a meetup, we're coming, that's the idea. So the coming community. The agenda of the sessions were around storytelling, personal branding, how to present a technical session in a right way, and of course, how to create a call for presenters form in a way that you'll get accepted to the summit. And the idea is to create public speakers in global summits. We had 7 world-class speakers. I will highlight some of them. 7 mentors that took a small team of participants and did breakout sessions with them, and specifically mentoring them on the topics that were covered. 42 participants. The participants were not accepted immediately. We selected them from an application form. The idea was to have people with experience, so not so junior, and coming from tech companies and tech roles. So the idea was to really put the emphasis on the technical women speaking, giving technical talks and speaks. So this is the breakout of the women that were participating. You can see that Microsoft is not here because it was not for Microsoft. It's not for Microsoft women. It's reaching out. But of course, the content is relevant whether it's for Microsoft or external companies. And one more thing I wanted to say about the women that were participating. I was in this situation as well as a developer. I was a developer in my previous roles, and I remember how hard it is to speak on a technical thing that you did, on a breakthrough, on something, on a best practice that you developed in front of a technical audience. It's really an issue, and the idea of this program was to tackle exactly that. So this was the program. Here is the team that took part of this really great course that we did. So this is Adi, Shiri, and myself. Alongside with us are people from the community that manage this. Moran is actually the person who was leading Women on Stage and is still leading Women on Stage in Israel. And volunteers from the community that were mentors and speakers throughout the program. These are the speakers that we brought for the keynote sessions of each session in the Academy. We had 6 sessions. So from Microsoft, we brought Simona, who is a cloud advocate lead for startups. We brought Miri Rodriguez, which is an amazing speaker about storytelling, and Donna, that was more focused on personal branding. And we also brought great speakers from the outside based on our connections and network to cover more topics. So this was the agenda roughly. So our KPIs, of course, we drew them in order to have a Northern Star. I think the most important one is this one. It's a KPI that we still hang into. So I am not sponsoring as a Dev PMM, and my manager is fine with it. I'm not sponsoring an event that doesn't include at least 30% women on stage. Again, it's complex to find women, and there's a lot of reasons that people that we work with tell us that they did not include women in the agenda. We were trying to bring in the solution. I will say, and just another anecdote that really happened in parallel. Just after this talk we had with Judson Althoff, our big boss in Microsoft, there was a summit in Israel, a really big one. And the guy that was, I'll stop presenting because this is pretty much it. The guy that was creating the agenda for the summit was our friend. And we saw that from 17 speakers, there was not one female. And we went to him and we said, hey, what's up? Why is it the case that 17 speakers and not even one is female? And he said, I published a call for speakers, and I was looking for speakers and I couldn't find them. So it's true that one other thing that we need to do, and a part of what the Women on Stage organization is doing, is a website that's showing all the women that are available to speak, so that people like him that are organizing a summit can reach out to. So this is one solution, and it's an important solution to increase the discoverability of female speakers. But also, the part that is also important is to increase the number of speakers out there. So having intentional activities in order to create more speakers in the pool. And this was the reason we did the Academy. So far, in collaboration with Microsoft, we did it once. We had a budget for one run, but we're thinking how we can leverage this and do it repeatedly in a scalable way, also not only in Israel, but also across Middle East and Africa, because we saw that it attracted a lot of attention, not only in Israel. So Turkey, South Africa, UAE, we're all very excited about this program. So yeah, this is my part.
Michal, that is amazing. I'm sure there are a lot of women on this call today that have just kind of been energized by what you've done, and I love your framework. I think that's really important, is to kind of have those structures in place of what you're trying to achieve. But ladies, there are 55 of us on this call today. Surely amongst us, there must be speakers. And I just think this is an amazing, amazing concept. It's fantastic. Congratulations for getting it off the ground and for challenging the norms. I think it's great. Are there any questions for Michal while we have her? Charlene, pop your camera on, please. Thanks.
So, Michal, well done. I have to say the first thing that excited me was your hairstyle. I love the fun in the hairstyle. You know, I'm so used to in corporate South Africa, and South Africans, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but we're still quite corporate. You know, the hair is back, so I'm loving the fun in your hairstyle and the way you carry yourself. That was really, really lovely. And then the thing that I absolutely love, which I've just realized we need to put in place at Altron Nexus, is I love the fact that you won't sponsor an event without 30% of the speakers being female. So thank you so much for that.
I think that's a great
you.
And I think it's a doable proposal, you know. So when events are being organized, it's feasible and it's realistic to kind of say, listen, we are not going to participate in this event unless you have 30% female speakers, because that's definitely how you get the ball rolling. One of your comments was about role models, and we've often spoken about this at WIT. Some of the long-serving ladies know we kind of introduced a concept called goal models, where we really kind of highlight opportunities for women that, well, look, she's doing it, therefore I can. And I think this speaking thing, those of you that are speakers, I see Vanessa Rath isn't joining us today. I know she's speaking at an event. She was invited to open a sourcing event in the USA today, which is great, but she's a great example of that public speaking and really utilizing that. But I think that having those female role models in place is really a great way to kind of raise this awareness. So fantastic. Very, very cool.
Hey, Lauren, Vanessa's actually started her presentation career here at WIT, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I see one of the questions, Michal, is from Karika, asking where can we sign up for the Academy?
Yeah, so just before I answer that, I want to connect to what you just said about role modeling or goal modeling. If it's okay for me to steal it in Israel, I think it's an amazing phrase. And yes, what you don't see, you will not be. So in order for our girls, our daughters, our sisters to become what they want, they need to see role models on stage, and it's the same for speakers. If you go to a summit and all you see is the same typecast of a guy speaking, he will not be on stage. So we need to find solutions for it. I totally agree with it. Unfortunately, the program currently is running only in Israel and in Hebrew. One of the things we were thinking of doing is perhaps run a MIA-wide initiative of this sort. So having this kind of a forum, me venting a little bit of the concept and what we did and getting your reactions is really, really helpful in planning and thinking ahead of what more we can do. So the answer, unfortunately, is I don't know of a similar initiative in English that is available, but if there will be, and I hope there will be, of course, we will make sure that you are all part of it.
Fantastic. Michal, thank you so much. I think that was a great way to kick off today. Very exciting. I think a lot of people are kind of now, heads are spinning and plans are going to be made of how we can make this happen for, excuse us, to make this happen in South Africa, because it's definitely something that we want to do as well. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time today, and I was on a kibbutz in Israel in 1999, and the only Hebrew I can remember is Manishma.
Which is what's up. It's great. Your Hebrew is wonderful.
So, I mean, that explains. I was on a kibbutz, so. But thank you very much. It was really fantastic.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great session today.
Thank you. Awesome. So next up, we have Colleen Larsen, who has joined us on recommendation of one of our longest serving WIT members, Charlene. It was a little bit of a pass, Colleen, because I'd actually asked Charl to speak, knowing her experience, and she's very humble, and she immediately was like, oh no, I'm not the right person, but I definitely know the right person. So welcome to WIT. I'm really grateful that Charl introduced us, and we look so forward to hearing from you today.
Thanks so much, Lauren. And yeah, I mean, Charl and I have known each other for many, many years, even from her Microsoft days. So we used to work together there and even before. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to share my screen. Can I take control?
Yes, there we go.
Fantastic. Let me just see. Oh, sorry, I've just opened the wrong one. Sorry. Just let me close that again. Sorry, it was while you were
there we go.
Doing that.
Perfect.
So open the correct one. Let's see. 5 stations. There we go. Fantastic. If you can just let me know when you see my screen, and then we can start.
There we go. We can see it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Super. Super. So thank you so much for allowing me to speak with you today. And I did see Paula Quincy join the call as well. So hi, Paula, to you as well. And as I said, I mean, Charlene and I have known each other for many years. So I'm going to take a step back and just tell you where Business Engage was started. You have 2 brands on the screen at the moment. If you could just park the 30% club, and I'll come back to it. I'll bring you in. But the organization is called Business Engage. It was a hobby I started in 2005, and it was supposed to remain a hobby while I grew my financial services career. Fast tracking to 2011, government published the Women Empowerment and Gender Equality Bill. And I was asked to represent Busa at NEDLAC as one of the negotiators on the Women Empowerment and Gender Equality Bill. I was very involved in the Busa Transformation Committee at that stage. And I woke up thinking it's fantastic that government's looking at legislation and they want to publish this Women Empowerment and Gender Equality Bill. But South Africa corporates are not going to do gender diversity because it's the right thing to do, or women are so marginalized, or because it's our time. And Lauren, I really love the way you talk about and you say you want to look forward, you don't want to look back. We all know the issues, and so we're not going to talk about the issues. We're going to talk about the solutions to what we need to do. And so in 2011, I decided to give up my financial services career and do this on a full-time basis. Everybody was saying to me, are you mad? Do you know how much money you're making in the financial services industry? Why do you want to go and run a non-profit? But by that stage, I developed the passion for this, and this is what I do today. So where we started with regards to what we do, and I really am very grateful that Women in Technology has asked me to speak today, because not only are you collaborative, but so are we. And for us, it isn't really how each organization goes and replicates what others are doing. So you are doing things that we aren't doing, we're doing things that you aren't doing. And the more of us that work together, the more we can do. So I'm really grateful that you opened up to us as an organization today. So where we started, it was in 2012. We decided to go internationally and see what best practices were being done in corporates internationally. And so on the front of our Business Engage website, you will find a free ebook called The Best Practices in Gender Mainstreaming for the Private Sector. Now, it's not that every corporate is going to take 106 best practices, which we have got in that book, but the more corporates we see, the more we hear about the fact of what they're doing and how they're doing. And then others we go and visit and they say, well, we just don't know where to start. So this gives them a couple of pointers on where to start. 106 best practices. Go and download it, and you're more than welcome to use it within your organizations. So the next thing we did was, when we spoke to individuals, we heard about the fact that, oh, corporates haven't bought into it, nothing's been done, nothing's been spent. And yet the more we spoke to corporates, the more we heard about how much has been done, how much has been spent. But there were two issues that we found. Is number one, there were silos within the corporate. So everybody was doing something, but they weren't telling the stories. So gender, when we started, looked like this little program that nobody was doing anything, and yet so much was being done. And it might not be at the most senior position as we wanted it, but a lot has been done. So what we first started was we started our 9th Gender Mainstreaming Awards, our Gender Mainstreaming Awards, and we're now in our 9th year. I don't know if anybody on the call today has heard about the Gender Mainstreaming Awards. It's been all over social media over the last couple of days. And so, as I said, we're in our 9th year currently. I just want to see if I've got a photograph of one of our events. Yeah, that is our event from 2019. We had 850 people at the Gallagher Estate. Now, we definitely couldn't have that last year, and we definitely can't have it this year. Lauren, hopefully next year we'll be able to have it in person as well. So we'll invite you all to that event. But I stood up at this event and I said, it's fantastic that we are able to galvanize the support that we have at this event with 850 people in the audience. However, if we do not have impact on the ground, it's absolutely meaningless, because then we are just an events coordinator, which we're not. So what we've done is, as an organization, we've developed 3 categories of what we offer. And all of this is in collaboration with a whole lot of organizations like yourselves, as well as corporates. Currently, we have 100 corporates engaged across Africa, which predominantly in South Africa. So the first lot of our initiatives is around engaging stakeholders. So I've told you about the collaboration. The Gender Mainstreaming Awards was originally established predominantly for corporates. We aren't an activist organization. We really want to inspire change. And so we feel that the more stories that get told, if you've got an organization like, for instance, an APSA that wins an award, Nedbank and Standard Bank are going to, and FNB are going to turn around and say, you know what, why are they getting awards? We're doing all of this at the same time. We'll tell the stories and you'll get the award. It's the same thing in the IT industry. If you have one IT company like Microsoft, as per Michal's presentation, doing what she's doing, others are going to turn around and say, well, why aren't we getting the accolades for it? So really it started with regards to telling the stories. We then, as an organization, we don't do things for the hell of doing things. We always have an objective in mind. So we, a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, we established 2 individual categories. Now, in doing all of the work with women, we've realized that, first of all, when we go and visit corporates, like you have with guest speakers, when we go and visit corporates and we say to them, you really should start looking for women in these positions, they turn around and say, oh, these women aren't available. Where are these women? And so to tell the stories of ordinary women growing their careers and to get rid of the myth that women aren't available, we started a positive role model category. Now, why do we call it positive role model? Because it's not just a role model. It's somebody that really understands that role that they play in bringing others along with them. So it's that positive impact that they make on the community around them and their colleagues. The second thing we did with regards to individual awards is in the work that we did with women, we realized that they knew about mentorship, they knew about coaching, but they did not necessarily know about, if you want to get into senior leadership, you need a sponsor at the top. And so to highlight sponsorship as something that you should be get a bit more information on, we started the inclusive leader category. And that's to recognize women and men who actively sponsor others up the ranks. So we're coming up for our 9th event next week. Don't ask me no questions. I'll tell you no lies. We already know who the winners are. And so yeah, you'll have to, anybody that wants to attend, it's free to attend, and attendance is open. So just let me know if you'd like an invite to that. The next thing we did in terms of our collaboration and in terms of sharing best practice is we started a connected workplace, which we host once a quarter, where the 100 corporates that we've got, we select corporates on a quarterly basis and ask them to share best practice. So 3 or 4 corporates will have an opportunity to share what they're doing. And it's no trade secrets. Most corporates are looking at gender and what we have to do. And it's great if we can really learn, grow, and develop together. The next thing we really strong is our research. For those listed companies on the call, you will know that all of the JSE listed companies have to have a gender strategy for the board and have to report thereon. Through our research, we've been tracking the JSE listed companies, what they've been doing, what they've been saying for the last 4 years. This is our 4th year now. And we've come up with 135 positions that will become available for women on listed boards within the next 3 to 5 years. And I'll tell you in the next section just what we are doing with regards to those 135 positions. Media, the Financial Mail and Business Day supplements that came out recently, those were ours. There's a Celebrating Women's supplement that comes out with the results of the GMA next week Sunday, so look out in the Sunday newspapers. And just before I get to the 30% club, we are anchoring the UN Women's 7 Women Empowerment Principle process in South Africa. In South Africa, we have been instrumental in a steercom of all of the companies working together on the 7 Women Empowerment Principles, and so that we can actually develop a best practice that we can take to other regions in terms of all these corporates working together. So we were doing all of this work, and we said, you know, all of this work is great, but if we don't involve the chairman and CEO of the organizations, it will not necessarily have the impact that we are looking at, because it becomes the tick the box exercise. And so what we did was we went internationally to see our non-profits got chairman and CEOs involved in what they were doing, to really anchor gender as a strategic imperative in organizations. And we came across the 30% Club, which is not an organization, it's an international campaign that gets chairman and CEOs to commit to gender mainstreaming. And we call it mainstreaming because unless it's strategic to the organization, it will never have the impact that we're looking for. So it's chairman and CEOs that put their names to gender mainstreaming because it makes business sense. So internationally, there are about 2,000 members, of which Warren Buffett, the chairman of Bloomberg, and various large and listed organizations internationally have got their chairman and CEOs there. So we approached them, we told them what we were doing in Southern Africa. They've appointed us as the custodians of the campaign in Southern Africa. And because of the work we've done in Southern Africa, we've been appointed to East Africa, and we are now also busy mobilizing West Africa. So the next thing we then started, so our next category of offering is to build. And so, as I mentioned to you, the 135 positions that have become available for women in listed companies, if we don't do something about it, same old's going to get the same positions. So what we've started doing is developing a pipeline of talent that will be ready for boards. Now, we don't want to compete with the Gibbs or any of the Dukes and Women in Leadership and the, you know, your UCT graduate schools and that. We've got a totally different initiative. All of them are doing the technical training. But where we found a gap is that women, when they get into senior leadership, they've got all of the technical know-how. However, they have not necessarily been part of the discussions that are being held in the boardroom. which puts them at a disadvantage. So what we've done is gone to our corporates that are specialists in fields, and we've asked them to take on masterclasses, 3-hour masterclasses, 30 of them that we've actually put together over a year. And so it's not only a women's program, it is for women and men, but only women have motivated to be on the program. So it's become a women's program by default. And so what we do is we take 15 to 20 women on per cohort through 30 masterclasses, which our corporates run. So for instance, Cummins, who's a global organization, that run in global expertise internationally, they take a 3-hour masterclass. The CEO and his top 7 leadership team take a masterclass on global mobility and global expertise. Robin de Villiers, the chairman and CEO of Burson Cohen Wolf, which is one of the biggest reputation management companies, does a session on what are boards doing in terms of reputation management now, what are some of the conversations they're having, and how should boards be addressing those. So it's 30 topics that we spread over a year, and when the women are actually finished through that program, we're going to spearhead them for the positions that become available. A similar series is our Leaders Masterclass series, which is more in leadership. So it's a much broader conversation around leadership. And so that we are busy launching in September. It's 22 sessions around leadership qualities. 2 books coming out. One is the Board Masterclass series. 25 of the facilitators from the Board Masterclass series have put together a chapter. And we are actually going to print on that now. It should be ready in the next couple of weeks. And then the other book is Gender Matters, a practical guide to the slippery ladder, which is practical advice for women wanting to grow their career. And then just the last thing that we've done is we believe you have to be deliberate and consistent in terms of what you're doing. So it doesn't help that if we do one event for August Women's Month and then comes to International Women's Day, we do another event. And because then it's not consistent, it's not in people's minds constantly, and we cannot grow the conversation and then put in place actions to actually make impact on the ground. With our format of how we run, we are able to go out with a calendar of events in January already. We have 20 what we call board walks and leaders walks. And essentially that is a monthly event where we have a guest speaker, and then we have Q&A board walk specifically around getting into senior leadership and onto boards. Leaders walk more in terms of a leadership conversation. We run lean-in circles in corporate. So Sheryl Sandberg's lean-in circles, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already been done, so we are running those in a number of our corporates. Voices of Change is for August Women's Month event. We currently have 15 organizations engaged where we come together and run a women's event. It's actually a movement that we've started of women's forums working together from all the corporates called Voices of Change. And we currently have 15 organizations. It's a day conference that we host in August. But what we've done through that this year is we've adopted a corporate social responsibility program called SOAR, which is a lady who's got a foundation that is developing young women, and she's looking to spearhead them with different careers like in tech, like in engineering and that. And she also then teaches school ladies in grades 11 and 12 on things like imposter syndrome and that type of thing that a lot of us only heard about way down in our careers. So we are adopting a number of schools, and we're going to be actually sponsoring the book that she's created for those schools. And then the last thing we do is our Corporate Gender Intelligence Conference, which we host twice a year. And that is really in terms of helping corporates with regards to specifics around gender mainstreaming within corporates. And we have guest speakers from across Africa and across the world. But essentially, everything we do together with the partner organizations we deal with, we work very closely with Women Property Network, African Women Chartered Accountants, Institute of Directors, and essentially, in a nutshell, what we are all doing together is we're building the business case for gender mainstreaming in South Africa. Whenever we do anything, we normally go overseas and say, oh, look what they've done overseas. They are doing such amazing work. And yet through the Gender Mainstreaming Awards, the stories that are being told of what corporates are doing in South Africa and across Africa are world class. And it's about time that we actually tell the world what we're doing in Africa. So with our move up into Africa, we are looking to make Africa the hub for gender mainstreaming and to share our stories with the world. And in a nutshell, that is us.
So inspiring, Colleen. I'm just having a giggle because one of my colleagues and I are chatting on WhatsApp and made basically a to-do list of all the things that we want to do with you now. So
fantastic. Really, I look forward to it.
Amazing. I think what is a common theme between you and Michal has been this role model, this positive role model or goal model. And I just, I'm going to just keep driving with all of the people on this call. Do not underestimate your visibility as a role model within your organization and within your community and families, etc. Because as you said, we have to tell our stories. What are the organizations doing? What are you doing? Just incidentally, Mint recently did a Women's Month profile on 7 of our senior female managers, and the response that we got was tremendous, and it resonated with people because this was actual stories and evidence of what women are doing in this industry. So I absolutely love that. Before we let you go, I'll just give 1 or 2 minutes for a question. Does anybody have a question for Colleen? I have shared her LinkedIn profile there. I have also shared the link to the 9th Gender Mainstreaming Awards event next week. But if anyone's got a question, please go ahead. A couple of people have asked for your details. That's why I've popped them there already. Everybody good. I'm sure that they'll probably reach out to you, and I know that there are a lot of people who've messaged me around, especially around your board membership course. I think that's fantastic.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lauren.
Colleen, thank you so much. Really, that was fantastic and so insightful. And I do think you're going to have at least half of the ladies on this call jumping onto your awards next week.
Fantastic, but I'd love to schedule some time to see what we can do together. Really excited about that.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Colleen. So much, really lovely.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye. Okay, ladies. So next up, sorry, every time I close this, I have to go and find it again. There we go. Okay. So our next speaker is, I think, one of our longest serving WIT members, if I'm not mistaken. Luckily, I know her quite well because I can introduce her, even though she didn't give me her bio like I asked. There's Charlene. So many of you WIT ladies know Charlene very well. I think her energy and enthusiasm is unmatched in most circles. And her current role and position in Altron has really just given her an opportunity to extend the growth focus that she has within that organization. So Charlene, welcome and take it away.
Thank you so much, Lauren. It's an absolute privilege to be here. I'd like to start by saying thank you to the ladies that came before me, Colleen and Michal. It's really been inspirational. And I think I need to start. I was quite excited at the beginning, and I've gone from excited to reflective and back to excited. So reflective because I'm not doing as much as I should be doing. And for that, I apologize. And too excited because I'm going to commit to this forum today that at Altron Nexus, we are going to have more of a commitment to doing what needs to be done, to walking the talk. So that's my commitment today. Yes, I'm not a CTO. Guys, did you all notice? I'm going to start sharing.
I'll stop presenting. There we go.
Guys, if there's any questions, please, I'd prefer it to be interactive because there are a few things I would like to ask. It's the first thing oh gosh, let me see. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Great stuff. So happy spring. I'm normally not a floral person, but the one thing that Women in Technology, and I've been a part of the WIB, Women in Blue. I see Hanli's on the call. She was also with me at IBM. So we were part of Women in Blue at IBM a lot of years ago. And through my career, I've belonged to quite a few of these women networks within the organizations I've worked with. So yeah, I'm not a very flowery person, but these women networks have really helped me to embrace my femininity within a man's world. So to that, I salute the women that have brought me here. So to Lauren's point, we don't want to look at the challenges that we constantly face because those don't change. So I thought I'd start with, what are we still fighting for? We are still fighting for equality. We are still not fighting, for the right to vote. But it's thank you to these women that I've put on the screen now. And Lauren, I'd like to run a little competition, see who's the first to recognize these women who have fought for equality. Or so maybe you can just put your hand up. Whoever puts their hand up first, we can maybe guess who they are. I'll just use my cursor to point. So let's start here. Who recognizes this young lady?
Amanda Ellis. Amanda, who's it?
Isn't that Fatima Mia?
No.
Not, okay, got it wrong.
Matty?
Malala.
Malala. Right.
Malala, that's right.
Malala is fighting for education for women in Afghanistan. Let's see who's going to get this one first.
Tabi?
Winnie Madikizela Mandela.
Well done, and we thank her for where we are today. Who's this amazing, fascinating, absolute gem of a woman?
Nobody's hazarding a guess. Come on, ladies.
It's Rosa Parks.
Nope. Albertina Sisulu, a very soft and gentle woman who made so much change. This group of ladies?
Where are you pointing?
Yeah.
Oh, there. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that the suffragettes?
No, but you've skipped ahead. These are the suffragettes.
Okay.
So well done, Lauren. Who are these ladies? Come on, South African women. These are the women we've got to thank.
Isn't that? Oh, sorry.
Black Sash.
Yay, well done. And then last but not least, the famous lady on the bus.
Yvonne.
Parks.
That's Rosa
Parks.
100%. So guys, these women we need to take a moment to say thank you and to recognize what these women have done, and so many more. This is not even a fraction of the women that have fought for us. So, and we are still in some countries fighting for a right to vote, and we are still largely fighting for equality, especially in the workplace. So thank you to the women who have come before us. So the three areas that we find that women in the workplace need more attention. So one is awareness. And the awareness is not of women in the workplace, but the lack thereof. It's about what Colleen spoke about. It's the awareness that, I think Lauren, was you that said we only make up 25% of executives in South Africa. I'm not sure if that was CEOs as well as women on boards, but it probably crosses both. In fact, women on boards is probably even less. Excuse me. Retention and succession. You know, do we actually, when we advertise roles, do we actually use mechanisms or benefits that attract women? And do we actually create an environment where we can retain these women and then build succession planning for women? And then the last thing is action. I think going into awareness, we've got a lot of, for example, women in tech, and it's a place that we can come where we can talk openly about the challenges, we can build each other up, and we can create the awareness. So I'd forgotten, Lauren, that only 25% of women in South Africa were, only 25% of leadership positions were held by women. And that made me sit back, because as a woman in leadership, I realized that I'm in a privileged position. And it's us women in these privileged positions, there's two schools of thoughts. So one is that we don't help other women because we are ourselves hanging on by the skin of our teeth. And I want to pause there for any comments on that before I discuss it further. If anybody's got any thought about the women in leadership or who are hanging on by the skin of their teeth.
100% agree, Charlene, and I'm sure that that is across the board, not just in corporates. I think it's in the smaller organizations as well, where women feel they might have to prove themselves even more. Jax, you've got your hand up?
Yes, thanks, Laura. Just a question from my side. So since it is something that you've raised, going forward, how do you foresee being able to change that?
Well, awareness. A lot of us, so for example, I see Lauren and she's this wonderful executive, and my expectation is, well, Lauren must be helping us women. It's her job to help us women. Actually, it's kind of not. It's our job to actually support Lauren so that she can then in turn help us. A lot of the time, what we don't understand, we'll point a finger at each other and we'll say, oh, that woman's in a senior position and she doesn't even help other women. Sometimes people are battling, women are battling to actually just hold on to the job. And I've learned, I'd say quite recently, the battle when you actually get to that executive level. There's a lot of challenge to deal with. There's a lot of challenge, and we cannot use that as an excuse, but we have to understand women in leadership positions that are hanging on by a thread. And when I say hanging on by a thread, it's keeping your job, doing the extra that the man doesn't have to do, going the extra mile to prove that you are there and that you are worthy to there. And Colleen mentioned imposter syndrome, proving to your male counterparts that you deserve to be there. And let's be honest, women executives work harder than men. And I don't mean in time and effort. I mean in terms of proving ourselves. Is that a fair statement?
That definitely is. I think it's a very interesting perspective. I think it's something that a lot of people don't take into consideration. So thank you for raising that. I think it's quite an important thing to have in a community like this, is understanding.
Thanks, Jax. So that's a way.
Charlene, sorry, Paula's got her hand up.
Hi, Paula.
Hi there. Hello, ladies. So yeah, I just wanted to add to what you've said. I mean, we've definitely seen the stats, and there was some research that was done recently, where 1 in 4 women are considering downshifting their careers or leaving the workforce because of the impact on COVID and the taking on the additional household responsibilities, for example, childcare, because they don't have access to support structures to help them with that. And they're predicting that it's actually going to put the progress that we have made in terms of women advancement in the corporate workspace, it's actually going to take us backwards, and actually impact what we've done.
Yeah, and you're spot on. And one of the things that we can do is create the awareness in forums like this, but also as part of our DNA at the office, is create that awareness. So when the boss says at 5 o'clock, let's go for a drink, I can say, no, thank you. I need to fetch my daughter from ballet. And I mustn't be, what's the word I'm looking for? Lauren, you're my word friend. Discriminated against because I can't.
Yeah.
You're right. And Charlene, I think we also need to make it okay for men to say, I have to go fetch my daughter or take my daughter to ballet and not discriminate against them.
Absolutely, Paula. I think that normalizing parental roles and beyond parental roles, caretaker roles, there might be a lot of men who are responsible for elderly parents, and there are various factors, and I think it's very important to normalize a life outside of the workplace that has requirements, because it's not just gender role based. It must be normalized across.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if I might use a really silly example, every day we need supper in my home. Every day. Nothing new. The last 20 years I've been married, we've needed supper every day. But I have to actually say to the man in my life, can you do supper? You know, it's not something that he thinks about every day. And I don't know who's read Women Are From What? Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. But sometimes, you know, when we come to awareness, we have to even go as far as neuroscience to understand how the male brain works and how the female brain works. And they work completely differently. So sometimes in the workplace, because it is still male dominated, fact, we've got to find the solutions around that. And we've got to be explicit in creating that awareness. You've got to be explicit in saying, boss, between 2 and 3 every day, I will be fetching my daughter from school. So I'm going to make up the time or make up the effort or whatever the case, when I can, if I can, etc., etc. But men aren't designed neurologically to actually think in that way. They aren't designed neurologically to think about the future, about the supper that we're going to need, even though we've had it for the last 20 years. They're not designed to be thinking about supper. So neurologically, it is up to us to own that creation of the awareness. Another silly example, if I might, we were sitting and talking through the new offices. So I'm not sure if everybody's aware that Altron moved to a new office park. Please come and visit us when lockdown or COVID restrictions enable us to or allow us to. We've got a wonderful new premises at the Altron at the Woodlands office park. And one of the things we were discussing when we were looking at the layout was, I said, is there going to be a mother's room? And I got these absolutely terrified eyes looking at me. And guys, please close your eyes and for a second, just imagine 8 sets of male eyes and nobody wants to ask, what is a mother's room? It was quite hilarious. One of those funny, not funny moments. So I had to explain that a mother's room is where you go to actually express milk. And today we actually have a mother's room down in Block D. It's near a shower, so if women need to go and express, there's a fridge. You can leave your milk in the fridge now. There's a private place for you to express. And yeah, thanks to COVID, there isn't anybody using it at the moment. But again, the men around the table had absolutely no idea. Oops, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to move on to retention and succession. So I think this is going to probably elicit quite a bit of discussion, which I'm actually hoping for. But one of the areas that I'm still flabbergasted is the lack of women for women. I always see it in forums like this, but it's almost that it's as though it sneaks in. Where, an example, somebody in HR will get 2 CVs, a male and a female, and then both narrowed down. And because the woman came from a lower salary, a lot of the time we tend to say, well, actually the woman's cheaper. So we need to raise awareness and we need to be able to pay women the same as men. Lauren, you're in HR. am I correct in sharing?
Sins, yes.
For your sins. Am I correct in my perception is that a huge amount of women actually work and lead HR departments?
Yes.
Am I correct in saying that HR could have a massive, massive impact in changing that and reducing that gap between female and male compatriots in the workplace for the same jobs?
Absolutely. I mean, I will put a caveat that there are numerous factors that influence appointment decisions, but I absolutely agree that many female candidates come from a lower salary base because they've either moved slower through the progression, and that could be because of maternity leave or what have you. But yeah, I think there is a huge opportunity there to address that gap.
Yeah, and I think, when I say HR and when I say salaries, it's us that are in decision-making positions that influence that. So it's not just the person sitting in HR. I'm talking about woman for woman. When we are employing women, let's offer the women and the men the same salaries. Again, caveat to Lauren's point. Sometimes I understand that, for example, when we employ a woman, she may not have, excuse me, she may not have 100% of the requirement or experience, for example, for the job. But let's take a chance on her. If she's got 80 or 90%, the only way we're going to get more women into the workplace and retain more women in the workplace is by actually giving them an opportunity. That's around salaries, and that's an opportunity to do the job. Are there any thoughts around that? Sorry, before I ask for thoughts, Lar, can you play the video? I'll stop sharing.
Sure.
Let's see if we get this right. I'll stop sharing. Go away, PowerPoint.
Okay. Oh, wait, let me make sure I put my sound on. Just wait 1 minute.
So those who know me well will know that this is an absolute favorite saying of mine.
Okay. Can everybody hear the sound?
We can tell our story about how we climbed the ladder, and a lot of you younger women don't think you have to, it's been done. It's not done, and you have to help. Hillary Clinton will always be there for you, and just remember, there's a special place in hell for women who don't help each other.
So that is one of my, and you'll see, when I presented at Top Woman and all these others, you will always find that in my slides. There really is a special place in hell for women who don't help each other. So ladies, any thoughts around that before I move on?
There's a couple of laughs. Anybody going to put their hand up? Any questions or comments? We've got, there we go, Karika.
Hey.
I think we're all now motivated to help each other.
Yes, absolutely. Ntombi?
Thank you so much. I like what you said, Charlene, with regards to, the number of women in HR and that we can play such a critical role in ensuring that, we change the gender in the business unit that we look after. From a Microsoft point of view, I'm an HR business partner at Microsoft. And we are intentional about inclusive hiring. And in all our hiring decisions, we favor women over men in almost all the roles that we are hiring for. So we make sure that it's either a Black woman, a colored woman, or an Indian woman or a white woman, but women get first preference in the positions that are available. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're doing that for a numbers sake. women are capable of doing exactly what men are doing, or even more, because they bring the care and the compassion and all the good stuff that, you know, neurologically, like you said, men are incapable of bringing that full package. So what you said really resonated with me, and we are on a huge drive of making sure that we hire women. I myself was appointed a month ago by Microsoft. So I'm a testament that it is indeed a huge drive to make sure that women dominate leadership positions. So thank you so much for your presentation.
No, thank you. You're giving me goosebumps. I mean, we are nowhere close to that. So that's going to be on my to-do list. So thank you so much for you know, allowing me to be accountable to you guys, because I mean, that's just flipping amazing. And I mean, I've worked with with Microsoft in previous roles, and I know it's so amazing. You guys have so many women, and it's absolutely amazing. So thanks for that. Thanks for sharing and motivating me to do more. So then just on attracting, which is just slightly before retention, but the attracting of women, a lot of the time we underestimate the ability to attract women. You know, it's not necessarily the salary, and it's not necessarily the title. And I think what I'm going to go back and challenge Altron Nexus with is, how do we actually attract women to our workplace? What are the things that women look for? At the moment when we advertise, I don't think we focus on what are those things that women actually look for in a role. So it could be flexibility, it could be nursery at home, it could be a mothering room. So yeah, in terms of you know, when we're actually writing these ads and advertising these roles, I'm going to challenge our HR to actually look at ads that can actually attract women. So thank you for the inspiration. Then on retention and succession.
Sorry, just a quick time check. Sorry.
Last thing, retention and succession, making the place more, you know, better to work at, and succession planning, each of us taking extreme ownership around succession. Is how do we own succession planning? If every single one of us take one woman by the hand and make sure that she gets to the next level, we'll be making a massive impact in our industry. And then last but not least is definitely mentorship and coaching. And if you can't do it yourself, get the right person. About 2 weeks ago, my husband asked how my day was, and I said I had the most amazing day today. And he said, what happened? I said, I found a mentor for one of the ladies in my team. She's a youngster, she's technical, she wants to become a CTO, and from my circle, I found a CTO to mentor her. It was the most satisfying and fulfilling day I'd had in a long time. So on action, what do we need to do and what are we doing? So as an IT organization, what we are looking at, and to the ladies from Microsoft and other OEMs, we do look to the OEMs and we are guided by the skills that are required to build. The other is walking the talk. Again, I stand here today almost embarrassed to say we are not doing it enough at Altron Nexus. So my commitment is to walk the talk. Then education, I believe education does start at home as well as the class. I commit to raising a boy who believes that women are equal. And then my commitment to attracting women. That's going to be my first one. I should have put it at the top, is how do we attract more women to Altron Nexus? So guys, thank you very much. I'm not going to bore you. Thank you so much for attending. The fact that I think it was Michal that started off by saying one thing with women is they actually don't attend events. So thanks everybody for making the time and for taking the time to listen. And thanks for the inspiration.
Charlene, I've actually just written a comment there. I think the thing that I'm taking away from you today is your honesty about that we aren't doing enough, and to strive to do more. It's impossible to be perfect. Those of you who are perfectionists or a recovering perfectionist like myself know how much energy is wasted on trying to be perfect. But good is good enough. And setting goals and making that public commitment that we are going to do better and we're going to do better together, I think is hugely powerful. So thank you very much for sharing your action points, awareness, retention and succession and action. It's really usable, it's doable. And I think that you've kind of lit a fire under everybody here today to look at what they can do in one of those areas to improve gender diversity within their organization, but also within our industry and beyond. So thank you so much for sharing. Really, really fantastic. And last but definitely not least, and once again, I just have to quickly go and find my deck because it keeps disappearing every time I stop sharing. Ilana, I'm going to ask you again to join me to please introduce our final speaker for today. Let me just jump to that slide coming up. So last but definitely not least, we're very excited to have Sameera joining us today. And Ilana, if you're on the call still, can you please do a little introduction?
Sure. So firstly, thank you so much for all the speakers so far. It's really been inspiring, a lot to think about. Thank you for sharing your stories and really giving us something to think about as well. And thank you for our final speaker, Sameera, the HR director at Microsoft. Thank you so much for joining us today and just sharing, some of her thoughts around how we think about diversity and inclusion and this agenda. So over to you, Sam.
Fantastic. Hi, Sameera.
What a session. Most enthused. I hope you can see me and hear me okay. I must again apologize like Michal did. I don't know whether it's the Israel South Africa thing, but I'm also significantly struggling with bandwidth. So I'm going to try and share my deck and hopefully I can stay on camera. But if I start getting glitchy, I might just switch it off. And Charlene, I did do my hair as well, coming to your point around corporate South Africa and making sure we're presentable in calls. So I wish I was a little bit messy today, but next time I will, I promise.
Next time it's going to be messy.
Great. Let me put my deck up.
Sameera, your sound is perfect.
Thank you. Let me see if this deck starts presenting. Fingers crossed. Let me know when you can see.
Yes, now we can. Thank you.
Great. So thank you so much again for the opportunity and super inspiring from all the presenters. And when Ilana and I spoke a little bit about what I could share from a Microsoft perspective, I wanted to make sure I had sort of a flavor and a nuance to how we ended up in the direction that we ended up from an overall diversity and inclusion perspective. And the other piece is that we're incredibly lucky to be partners with the LinkedIn organization. And be under the same umbrella from a Microsoft point of view. So we get a lot of insights from a LinkedIn perspective. So what I wanted to attempt to do today was give you a perspective of what we're seeing, both from a technology perspective, but also from an overall skilling and future of work perspective, and what potentially the future of work could look like, and specifically how that's potentially going to affect our women in the organization and what we're doing. We're super proud of the work we're doing. To everyone's point, the work is not done. I don't think it'll ever be done, but it really is up to us to think ahead and how we can actually navigate this and make this a reality for not just ourselves, but we all have daughters, nieces, sisters, somebody in the ether that we are building this world for. And if we don't take up that accountability, what will the world look like for them? I have 2 daughters, for example, and I'm so passionate about making sure that they walk a journey that is aligned to their goals and ambitions. But before I do that, maybe let me just out myself a little bit in terms of who I am. As you've heard, I'm Sameera Mohamed. I used to be Sameera Noor Mohamed. I got married and just dropped the Noor because my husband's surname was Mohammed, so just lost a couple of letters there. But I actually joined Microsoft almost 14 years ago, straight almost out of university. I had a couple of little, side jobs there after I had finished my qualifications. Got a call from Microsoft for a 6-month internship, and 14 years later, I'm still here. I put my badges in here. You can see the progress from day 1 to where I am today. And the reason this is important to me is for a couple of reasons. One is I am uniquely proud of the journey and the organization that we are that builds and supports the development of women. But it's also, when I look at this picture, I think back to the number of women and the shoulders and the wisdom and the creativity and innovation of people that have led me through this point. And I would be nowhere if it wasn't for females in my organization who sponsored, who mentored, who coached, who guided, who instructed, who shouted at, or give me some very hard feedback every once in a while. And so, you know, this piece is incredibly important to me to do the same for everyone who comes after me. You know, when you get the opportunity, it's not about swinging the door wide open. It's about opening the window a little bit at a time, so that you make the space for those that need to come before you, because the space and the seat will not be mine forever. And it's my job to make sure that as many seats as possible are filled with inspirational women around. So am I still coming across okay? Because I am frozen on my side.
It's perfect, thank you.
Just to be safe, I'm going to switch my camera off, if that's okay, just because I see myself frozen and then I freak myself out when I see that. So let's move very, very quickly. So a lot of what I'm going to share in terms of the accelerating and future work of world of work and what it's going to look like is not new, right? There's copious amounts of articles and case studies and blogs, etc., that are talking about the future of work, especially given the pandemic and what COVID-19 has done to us in terms of how we run our businesses and how we support our teams, how we employ, how we retain, how we attract. And so none of the stuff that I'm going to show you is particularly new or anyone doesn't have a view on, but I'll spend some time just in terms of what we're seeing both from a Microsoft and a LinkedIn perspective, just given the data that we have access to. When we think about digital transformation, you know, that's kind of the buzzword today, and AI, automation, machine learning, all of the digital technology skills becoming much more prevalent in our organization, whether you're in the IT space or you're not. And it's really setting organizations apart in terms of their ability to be agile in the space of technology today. So we're seeing that move happen much more rapidly. COVID-19's done things that we never thought possible. And we're realizing that so much more can be done remotely through technology, etc. And so it's advancing the rate of technology innovation in organizations at a much more rapid pace than we've ever seen before. When you think about the skills gap, there is currently a skills gap, and if we don't work to shorten that skills gap from now, we're going to find ourselves in a situation where that gap in terms of our employable skills in our organizations is going to be much, much wider. And because of that rapid evolution of technology, and because of us, the skills that you have being reinforced or re-engineered every time, the skills gap is going to continuously grow and become wider. And there's a statistic that shows that, you know, females are disproportionately affected by this because their ability to be agile through knowledge, building their own capability, learning, etc., is hindered by the fact that you know, they have other responsibilities, as many of you have shared, childcare, family care, things they have to do at home, etc. And so they have got to balance how much they invest in themselves, as well as how much they invest in others as well. So there is a scary statistics around how potentially we could be left behind. Diversity and inclusion and belonging has become a hot topic in recent years, and every HR team is critically thinking about their diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging strategy in any organization. And I love that, but it also doesn't mean that this is done. You can't just have a strategy, but you have to be able to execute on it. And as we know, the pandemic's changed how we work, and so we're going to see the move towards flexible work being much more a priority and a much more focused area for many organizations. But with that comes the need to think about the well-being of your employees as well. So really important for us to focus on some of these areas. Let me break it down a little bit more for you. What we know is that digital transformation will change the landscape of the types of roles that we have in any organization, but we also know that it will create more jobs than it destroys. But how do we ready ourselves for those jobs? And there's also a statistic that I've put up on the screen to show that approximately 50% of your people in any of your organizations are going to require a fundamental reskilling by in a very short period of time because of the way that the organizations are shifting when it comes to their digital transformation strategies. And you can look at the statistics there from a landscape perspective and what we're seeing. You know, there's going to be 97 million types of new jobs, and you'll see the type of growing job demands that are on the screen, things like data analysts, AI and machine learning specialists. And so if we're not building that capability in our organizations today with the women that we have, or building this in our education systems, for example, we're going to not have those skills to be able to hire or to be able to retain. And you'll see the drop off there in terms of what we're sacrificing from a role perspective. And so as you think about digital transformation in your organization, are you thinking about employability as well and retaining your talent and female talent and growing them to make sure that they're ready to take on these roles? When you think about the skills gap, as I said to you before, there's a huge statistics around the type of jobs that may exist in years to come, and some of them haven't even been invented as yet. We don't even know what those are going to look like. And so we will need to find different types of ways to hire, different types of skills that we're going to hire, etc. And again, as I said to you, it's very clearly shown that women will be disproportionately impacted by this change because of their ability to close the skills gap and how they're prioritizing their own skills and capability and competency, but also whether they're really being prioritized in any organization to do that. But one of the things I also wanted to show you is that there's hope, right? In terms of the soft skills, and we're seeing a lot more of this in job postings and adverts that are coming out on LinkedIn, for example. Soft skills are becoming part of job descriptions today. Previously, they would put things like attention to detail and project management and all of these skills that would be part of your normal kind of learning to do your job. But soft skills are becoming much more prevalent in job descriptions today. We want to see creativity, we want to see adaptability, we want to see emotional intelligence and EQ, empathy, compassion. All of these things are starting to prop up in actual job descriptions today. And where does those skills lie? Squarely in the hands of women. We naturally are aligned to these type of skills. And so we are at the cusp of being able to take on these roles because we naturally lead with these type of skills. Our ability to be persuasive, I think you can all agree with me, is definitely something we can all align to. But there's also a view around some of the hard skills and where we're going, some of the new jobs that are starting to show up, and that's on the screen in front of you. I'm racing through this super quickly because I want to get to the Microsoft lens. Diversity, inclusion, and belonging. Again, I think Lauren can attest to this. Every organization is thinking about their D&I strategy and why that's super important. And there's a view that companies with more than 30% of female executives are more likely to financially outperform companies with less female executives in decision-making positions, because we lead with all of those persuasive, adaptable, agile, compassionate, empathy views that will help the organization think holistically about the decisions they make. So there's a clear value proposition for why we need to be seated in those high positions. And when you think about it, there's clear data that shows us that this ultimately will impact your profitability as well. And we really need to encourage every single person to lean into this. It's not just the job of the CEO in the organization or your HR lead or your person who runs D&I for you. It's really the accountability for every single person in your organization. What we've done at Microsoft, for example, is, and Ilana can attest to this, every Microsoft employee has a diversity and inclusion core priority in their KPIs. We've written it for every single employee. How you activate it and how you action it is up to you, but it's there as a KPI for all 400 plus employees that sit on Microsoft South African soil. And that way we make sure that everybody owns the accountability for D&I. And then just a little bit of insight as to what we're seeing on LinkedIn, for example. There's been double the number of diversity leadership roles that have been posted. This is an important function in your organization. And if your organizations are not thinking about having a diversity and inclusion business unit function area, it can't just sit under HR and be HR's accountability. Sure, it is. We have a massive role to play. But when you think about the legwork that is needed to change the landscape, the culture in your organization, to intensify D&I efforts, you must be thinking about the skills that is required in order for you to do this. So we have a specific diversity and inclusion function that sits in parallel to HR that runs and creates all of these interventions to potentially support us. And so one of the strategies to think about, can you build this systemically into your organization? And then lastly, from a flexible work perspective, I think the data that I'm showing you on the slide is not new. But when you think about what the pandemic has done, 570% increase in the number of remote job postings, right? So we know this is not going away. We know that organizations are fundamentally shifting, and making the choice to move to remote work or to apply for a job that is remote working is an interesting and a complex issue, because when you think about it, you're making the choice to work from home, but you're also making the choice to start doing a function where you have to worry about your home life and your kids and the distractions that come along with it. And we again know that that's going to disproportionately affect women. So when you think about it, if you're building an organization that is remote working, great. But have you thought about the complexity of how you will support your employees, and specifically female employees in this space? In terms of a case study, we've seen that 4 out of 5 employees will be interested in working in an environment that is not exclusively office-based, and that's great. A lot of people are wanting this flexibility more and more because we know that we can do our jobs remotely. We've proven that point. But again, if you are signaling to your employees you're moving this in this way, are you building the construct for them to be able to do it effectively? But remote work at the end of the day is good for us, because what we're also seeing is that 26% of women are more likely to apply for remote jobs than men, putting us at the front foot, because for us, this makes sense. We're able to juggle and balance things a lot more. And so we're seeing the opportunity for us to be much more intentional on diverse hiring, because we're no longer held back by time constraints or location constraints or anything like that. So again, it's a good news story for us. And then the last piece is around well-being. And every organization is talking about it. And well-being affects all our employees. I'm not taking away from aspirers and graduates to long tenured executives. The way we've been working is really not sustainable and not healthy in the long term. And well-being is becoming a key component of any strategy for any organization, specifically when it comes to mental health, anxiety, depression, loneliness, social isolation, etc. All of those things are becoming much more prevalent. And so your well-being strategies have to be absolutely well crafted for you to be able to support your employees through the journey as they navigate out of the pandemic and while they're currently still in the pandemic as well. So those are just a couple of data points from a LinkedIn Microsoft perspective that help guide our diversity and inclusion strategies and help us understand where we need to spend that time and what we need to be doing in order to help our female employees, but our employees all up as well. Again, I know I'm rushing through this, and I hope I'm getting to as much of it as possible. But let me just talk a little bit about Microsoft and what we are potentially doing from a D&I perspective. So the first piece is around community. Okay, Charlene, I love what you said around women helping women, lifting as you rise. I'm a testament to that. I'm a testament to the community who got me here, and I take none of that for granted. But it's really important that you build this community in your organization. Women helping women is at most important. And cracking the door open for those that come after you is going to be fundamental to creating that culture that you're looking for. So we have our Women at Microsoft group, which Ilana is part of, and part of the chapter and the board of the Women at Microsoft team, together with Ntombi and myself. And we really spend time thinking about the strategy of women in our organization. What do they need? What are the unique and bespoke challenges they're facing? How do we lean into support, etc.? And then we build things around helping them there. We've done copious amount of chats. Oftentimes you'll find that you think you're alone in a situation, you think you're struggling through something, and you'll often find there's somebody across the table who has had a similar challenge or is going through a similar challenge, where you could lean on them and you could co-create and help design solutions around it. So creating this community, fireside chats, learning from each other. We've done things around financial acumen and capability. How do we build your own financial strength? We've done things around, how do you tap into your superpower? You may not think it's a superpower, but how do you tap into that? We've brought in external speakers because, we don't know it all. We probably never will. And there are people much more smarter than myself who can come in and do this. So external speakers are a critical part of helping us build a narrative around that. And then we spend a lot of time externally as well, because to everyone's point, it's not just good enough that we do this for ourselves. We must do this for our youth, for our communities, for the people that we serve, because otherwise, why do we exist? And then the last piece is around our Women at Microsoft forms part of what we call employee resource groups. That's the ERG that you see on the slide. And employee resource groups are far and wide. We have an employee resource group for potentially every marginalized community there is: disability, Blacks at Microsoft, Gleam, LGBTQ communities, etc. So we have multiple resource groups that exist simultaneously and in parallel to each other. But there is so much power in when these resource groups come together. Because when you think about some of the issues that each marginalized community is working through, they're somewhat the same. When you think about what LGBTQ rights are fighting for, when you think about African and Blacks as a community, what are they fighting for? When you think about disability, what are they fighting for? And so there's huge power in bringing these resource groups together and mobilizing them effectively. And the other piece is around intersectionality, right? I often use this example. If you're a woman and you're Black and you're disabled and you're gay, like which resource group do you go and spend time in, right? So it's really important that you don't feel discriminated in any one of your identities, and identity is a huge component of who you are. So how do we bring this together at a point of intersection to support you? The second thing, and we've spoken about this, and Charlene was so beautifully talking about, retention and succession inside of your organization. It must be part of your strategy. Development career and career empowerment for women must be built into any development strategy you build. We have a program called Strategies for Success specifically for women aspiring to leadership roles. It's built around things like how do you really truly know yourself, managing your own brand, building your resilience and self-belief, how to get visibility and sponsorship. And so building these programs to help your women land on succession slates and then materialize those roles is really important. And similarly, mentoring and coaching. This year on mentoring, it's really interesting. What we've done is we've recognized that mentoring has become sort of a stopgap, right? Do you have a mentor? Do you don't have a mentor? You catch up for, every second or third week over coffee and you chat. And we recognize that it might not necessarily be doing the right thing in terms of what we were looking for. So we spent a lot of time. We identified key mentors in our organization, around 30 of them. We spent a week with them building their mentor capability, because oftentimes we assume that a mentor has the capability to coach women in the right way. So this time around, instead of coaching the mentees and the people who were being mentored, we spent time coaching the mentors. What do women need? What are they looking for? What are the things you need to help them with? What are the signs that you need to look out for? And we spend time coaching the mentors and training them through a 4-day-long program. And then the last piece is around making sure that Microsoft is the absolute attractor of talent and retain our female talent in the organization. Super proud of the momentum we have and what we've seen in terms of women taking up spaces in all levels of the organization. It is a fundamental way we shift the dynamics in corporate. Hybrid workplace, I've spoken about it before, but the nuances to what women need are absolutely important for us to have a lens on. So building things to support the hybrid model or the work from home model that specifically enable our female employees. We've built tuition assistance programs. So your kids are online working from home. They've got to do homework. Now you're sitting in front of your PC till 5 o'clock and having to do a bunch of things. Who helps your kids with their homework? So we've got tutors on call. Your kids can call them, help them with their maths. And believe me, even if I did have the time, I wouldn't use it, only because what I know about parallelograms and things has gone squarely out the window. So having these kind of things and available to them is really important. Counseling services, free counseling services when you're dealing with anxiety, stress, burnout, your emotional health and well-being. But this is not only available to you. Our counseling services are available to you as a Microsoft employee and every single member of your family. And so, we don't know everything. We're not therapists. As in HR, we do our best, but we certainly can't psychoanalyze anybody. So we want to give this and put it in the hands of where people actually really need it. And then the last piece is really important. We've all spoken about it. We're here and we must help lift each other up, but we cannot and will not ever be able to do this on our own. And so allyship is an incredible way to make sure you're building momentum. We need allies. The men in the room need to be equally as invested in this as we are, and they must recognize the role they play in helping make this happen. We've built an incredibly extensive allyship path inside of Microsoft. There's an allyship learning path that we have built. Every single Microsoft employee has to complete it. It's a 7-module program, starting from what is an ally all the way to activating your allyship, but not just allyship to women. We want you to be an ally to one, an ally to some, and an ally to all. An allyship is not a title. You don't walk around saying, hey, I'm an ally. It is actually something that you live every single day. You wake up with a firm commitment to be an ally to every person you meet, whether you see them in their whole self, whether you see them in the self that they present to you. You will and must be an ally to them, because we recognize that we absolutely cannot do this on our own. And the work and the progress we've made at Microsoft is a testament to the allies that we have. Again, a living proof of that, but certainly a key focus area for us in terms of the strategies for success we're doing when it comes to diversity and inclusion. Now, I've rambled on for 20 minutes, so I'm going to shush. And I hope that was okay. And I don't know where you want to take it from here, but I'm open to any questions or any feedback anybody has. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for the opportunity. Truly, truly appreciate the time.
Sameera, you have ended off what is actually a 2-hour session. I didn't realize how much time has gone by on an absolute high. What I absolutely love is the practicality of what you've spoken about. Like, this is not just wishful thinking, and it's not just you know, unicorn, let's cross fingers and hope this works. I absolutely love that you've given evidence of how you're doing it and how you are striving to do it. And I think it's inspirational. So you do have a couple of people requesting the homework service. So as soon as you mentioned parallelograms, I think all the parents' blood ran cold. But yeah, a couple of questions. I see Paula, you've got your hand up, and then Ilana.
Thanks. That was great, Sameera. Just a question in terms of the support structures and the counselling and stuff that you're putting in place with the hybrid working model. We've seen stats globally spike as far as gender-based violence and domestic abuse is concerned. How are you incorporating that under your well-being and your hybrid models in terms of supporting across the spectrum? So not just male on female abuse, but female on male and LGBTQI, etc., as well as child abuse.
Such a good point, and such a prevalent topic right now. In FY21, which was our last financial year, we launched the Safe at Home program because we recognized, to your point, that we don't know what's going on behind the team's background that I have. There could be a bunch of stuff that's happening, whether it's violence, whether it's, you know, abuse, whatever that may be, for both our employees and for their families. And let's just be honest, team, we're also not intended to be sitting under the same roof for a 24-hour period. We're intended to go off, do our jobs, and then come home and share in a collective space. Now you're sharing space 24/7 with people. Your stress levels are heightened. You're in an anxiety-ridden state. And so we're seeing a lot of those dynamics come up. Divorce rates increasing, etc. So our Safe at Home program did two things. One, we wanted to address gender-based violence for South Africa. So we launched a hackathon, and Ilana can share the insights with you on how Safe at Home was run. But in essence, we created a tool, an app where it will help women who are in the situation, whether you work for Microsoft or you don't. And then through our Women at Microsoft Employee Resource Group, of, you know, which we ran a series of Safe at Home interventions. Okay, and we did this in partnership with our Gleam ERG, which is our LGBTQ ERG. So we did it hand in step with them because we recognize they are facing a similar kind of issues as we are. How to protect yourself, how to ask for help, what are the signs you need to be looking out for. We also wanted to protect them from cybersecurity issues. Now you're at home, you're on your PC, your kids are on PC, your entire family is on a network. How are you keeping your kids safe from cyberbullying? How are you keeping them safe from predators? They're doing their online schooling, but are they on YouTube doing something else? How do you protect them from those things? So we ran an entire Safe at Home program all the way from awareness building. And we also ran it with our manager community as well, because who looks at our employees every day, virtually maybe, is our managers. What are the signs they need to look out for? How do they recognize stress and anxiety? Has somebody come to work and not switch their camera on? Or when they did switch their camera on, you noticed something? How do you pick up on those things? So we wanted to spend time on them as well. So the Safe at Home program, happy to share more with you on that. We did an internal and external campaign on it, because you're right. This could not must not be overlooked.
Thanks, Sameera. That's great. I will connect with you, because one of the other things is a lot of the focus and responsibility is laid at the feet of the victims to get help, but nobody's talking about the perpetrators.
Yeah.
And as much as we have victims in our organizations, we have perpetrators too.
Fair, very fair point.
Thanks, Paula. Ilana?
So firstly, thank you, Sam. It's always inspiring and wonderful listening to you. So really do appreciate that. Also wanted to share, earlier on, in the presentation, Sam did share, how do you read yourself and reskill yourself? So I just wanted to take this opportunity to say that I've arranged a gift for everyone on this call. You can take any Microsoft exam and I will give away a free exam voucher to help try and upskill and learn something new and learn something different. So if you want to take advantage of that, please reach out to me and I'll provide the exam voucher for you.
Thanks, Ilana. That's very, very cool. Thank you. Won't you pop your email address in the chat so that everyone can get hold of you? And Sameera, I'm conscious of time. We're nearly done, but just as I said, thank you so much. I think All 4 speakers today have really just given us a lot of action points, which I think is hugely valuable. And I really appreciate you taking the time to share what Microsoft is doing, because it's something that the rest of us companies can learn from. So thank you very much. And ladies, thank you all for joining us today. It's been another amazing WIT event. I think it's just so insightful and really powerful. And I really encourage you to share what you're putting into place in your organizations, what you've learned, and what is working, because clearly it's something that just resonates with all of us. So thank you very much and have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you for an amazing session.
Thank you, everybody.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a great